John, first of all, thanks very much for coming. Really appreciate it. The book is The Game Must Go On. It's about World War II and the players out of baseball. And the first thing I wanted to ask you is you based this around Hank Greenberg and Pete Gray. Why did you take two guys and then build the story around it?
I did that because I really thought if you're going to do this story that you need, it's World War II, you need a story to connect it to the people. And I needed characters people could connect with. And for me, that was Hank Greenberg, who represents, the star who gave up everything. And then Pete Gray, who is this ball player that nobody's ever heard of, who's got one arm, who is one of the replacement players. And they live these parallel lives that are totally influenced by the war. And it's really a nice, concise picture of baseball in World War II and how it shaped the game in ways we still see today.
Why did you choose this subject matter?
That's an interesting question. I'm a bit young to be doing this, as you can tell. This was my third baseball history book, and I like writing it narratively. I like Greenberg. Hank always moved me. The integrity of his character always moved me. Plus, I like right-handed power. Pete Gray was a story that's kind of been done, but never really cleanly done. And I wanted to kind of make him walk again, so to speak, make the bones walk again. And so, like I said, they live these parallel lives during the war. And Hank is off, instead of hitting cleanup for the Tigers, he's off in China with bomber squadrons. And Pete is playing his way up through the Bush leagues. It just resonated with me, and I think it'll resonate with today's readers, younger readers. If you're my age and you have kids, I think your kids will like it. I think it's a very engaging thing.
There were so many players that went. Talk a little bit about the status of Major League Baseball during the war years, because things got a little hairy there.
Well, wartime baseball is not what you think of when you think of Major League Baseball today. Here we're in Anaheim and everything's pristine and the water is green, or the grass is green. No, not quite during the war. Domestically you had all sorts of rationing, right? So everything was short. There was a shortage of everything. A shortage of players, shortage of good fields, shortage of travel, double headers. You couldn't buy a hot dog at a game because of meat rationing. Yeah. And, like I said, I wasn't there and you weren't there. Your parents were there. My grandparents were there. And these are all things you just have to be willing to dig really deep to go find and read a ton of stuff to be able to draw that picture. And, like I said, I get into it, but the major leagues you see today, the big leagues we watch every day, the players who play in this game every day, the business that this business is, this all came about because of the war.
Greenberg was noted as being a humble man as a baseball player, and after reading the book, he stayed that way when it came to talking about World War II, both while he was there and after.
Hank was the kind of guy that has this integrity that just sails above everything. And I don't think that was uncommon of people of the war generation. And, Hank's son Steve told me that, where he said one day, Dad, you could have hit 500 home runs. Does that bother you? And he's like, not one bit. I did my part. Feller was that way too, a little more boisterous. But, I don't think that was unique to Hank. I think it becomes remembered because Hank was such a powerful personality on a field. But that quality of character, I think, defined that generation. And we still see it today. And I thought that was worth telling.
John, sometimes I know when you write things, oftentimes you don't know where it's going to end. Sometimes you don't know what the middle's going to look like. It develops as it goes when you write. What developed as you were writing this that you wanted to leave with the reader when you finished the book?
That's a good question. I think that I wanted to do a book that wasn't an encyclopedia. I didn't want to do a textbook or a reference book or a dictionary where I can look up all the players that played during the war. I wanted it to have a story. And for it to have a story, you need people who are characters. And I think really the other people that you get to meet in the book are the Southworth family. And Billy Southworth was the manager of the Cardinals. His son was going to be a big leaguer. He quit playing baseball to go be a pilot. He wanted to be a combat pilot, and he ended up flying a bomber and actually threw out a ball over Germany. And that story has an ending like a lot of families had in the war. And, there's a lot of good meaning here that just kind of unravels itself. And if I can impart a little of that, then I honored their memory. I've entertained the reader. I've made a meaningful contribution to what I would consider baseball literature. and I'm good.
You're good.
Oh, thanks.
I read the book. This is it, John Klima. The Game Must Go On. It's about World War II, players who were involved in it, and based around two players, Hank Greenberg, whom you know, and Pete Gray, whom you will like to know and will meet. A real worthwhile read, whether it's about baseball history, and the best part is it's about both. John, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.